islands. Pinatubo, Vesuvius. Household names conjuring horrific images of death and destruction. Yet even these devastating eruptions are minute compared to some. The island of Santorini, Greece. Thousands of years ago, it endured the wrath of one of the most powerful volcanoes in human history. Firestorms, blizzards of ash, tidal waves, a catastrophe of biblical proportions. It may have even destroyed Europe's first civilization. But in a baffling turn, the volcano collapsed in on itself and sank into the sea, taking its secrets with it. Now, scientists want to understand volcanoes at their most terrifying extreme. Dive into the abyss on a voyage 1,000 feet deep to reconstruct a doomsday volcano's day of death and determine if it could erupt again. Without Earth's fiery core, our planet would be a wasteland. The surface would become flat, infertile, and barren. The planet would die. But the same forces that give life also destroy. Without warning or mercy. Of all the forces of nature, volcanoes can be the most destructive. With the power to instantly kill thousands, demolish cities, or blast mountains off the face of the earth. Even wipe out entire civilizations. But there are volcanoes, and there are megavolcanoes. Nature's version of doomsday. One of them erupted here, 3,600 years ago in Santorini, Greece. Its ring-like shape dates back to catastrophic eruptions in prehistoric times. Then, over thousands of years, scientists believe a massive cone of magma began pushing up inside, early stages of a colossal explosion in the making. When it blew, the eruption blasted the mountain apart. Over the centuries, myth and legend have boiled above this volcano's watery grave. Some have speculated the eruption here was the source of some of the Bible's most compelling tales. The plagues in Egypt, even the parting of the Red Sea. Still unsolved, the fate of the great civilization that thrived here when the mountain blew its top. For 3,600 years, the real stories of the volcano called Thera and the ancient people who lived here were lost at sea.
What do you say the depth is here, Jim?
Today, National Geographic explorer in residence Robert Ballard is diving deep into the Aegean Sea, hoping to measure the magnitude of this disaster.
It's a mystery because we don't know that much about its history. When it erupted in the Bronze Age, that's a long time ago. And so we're here to try to unlock that chapter of human history.
Only by establishing the size and scale of the Thera blast can Ballard and his team begin to understand what happened here so long ago. They know it was big, but how big is a crucial question. By measuring the volcanic ash and debris, they can determine if Thera's deadly force could have reached beyond Santorini and caused the death of a civilization spread out on islands across the Aegean.
Getting a chance to explore the ocean floor is like ripping a veil off and seeing the real inner workings of the volcano. So it's a tremendous opportunity.
We live on planet Volcano. 2,000 miles beneath our feet, the Earth's inner core is a roiling inferno. Superheated molten rock, or magma, reaching temperatures up to 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit, surges upwards under extreme pressure. On the surface, the Earth is a jigsaw of 7 huge tectonic plates. Magma rises toward the seams between them. When the magma bursts through a rupture in the Earth's crust, a volcano is born. Scientists measure eruptions on the Volcanic Explosivity Index, or VEI, from 0 to 8. Like the Richter scale, it's exponential. An eruption rated 6 is 10 times the force of a 5. Even scientific sources can resort to explosive language to describe the worst of nature's fury. At the top of the index, some volcanologists categorize eruptions rated 7s and 8s as colossal. These are the super or mega volcanoes. In 1963, a massive eruption on the ocean floor, more than 400 feet below the surface, sent the 700-acre Surtsey Island rising out of the waters of the North Atlantic. And it only rated a VEI of 3. Imagine what the really powerful eruptions can do. Over 50 times each year, one of the planet's more than 500 active volcanoes stirs to life. In 450 cities, 500 million people live in volcano hazard zones. And yet, every few thousand years, a doomsday eruption causes catastrophic death and destruction. They read like a natural disaster hall of fame. Vesuvius destroyed Pompeii in 79 AD, but still rates only a 5 on the VEI scale. Krakatoa in 1883, heard 3,000 miles away, triggering a 100-foot tsunami. A VEI of 6. Also in Indonesia in 1815, Mount Tambora, the mother of all blasts in recorded history. A VEI of 7, 100 times more powerful than Vesuvius. Megablasts are rare. In the history of the planet, few eruptions have reached a VEI of 7 or 8. One was 74,000 years ago at Toba on Sumatra. Its gigantic debris cloud circled the globe, blocking so much sunlight it may have triggered a new ice age. And caused mass extinctions, killing off so many of our primitive ancestors. Some speculate it helped select the remaining hominids that became modern man. For years, scientists rated the Santorini eruption a 6, possibly not powerful enough to destroy a civilization spread across many different islands. That's what the expedition is here to find out. Today, the tools exist to follow the ancient eruption into the sea and far beyond Santorini, as far as Thera's deadly destruction may have spread.
to have the technology to actually do something about it and really go from fiction to nonfiction, from fantasy to fact. I mean, where we're going, no one has ever gone before.
The ROV, or remotely operated vehicle, named Hercules, with 7 cameras, double-arm manipulators, and multiple sampling capacity, is the cutting edge in deep-water exploration. Inside a 10,000-foot umbilical, fiber optics send digital information from the bottom of the Aegean into a big metal box on deck.
So it's a feature of the market. You're interested in it, or do you want to stay on this sort of whole line?
Inside the control center, expedition pilot Brennan Phillips and navigator Katie Croft drive the ROV and control the tools that will measure debris from the ancient blast, allowing the scientists on board to finally discover the true magnitude of Thera's eruption.
So we're going to start heading towards the southwest.
This is treacherous terrain, diving deep inside an enormous underwater crater called a submarine caldera. An astonishing 10 miles wide, it's the first evidence that a massive explosion occurred here. At some point in the past, an eruption blasted the volcano apart until it collapsed in on itself, plunging most of the mountain deep into the sea. On their screens is the volcanic debris they've come to see. For the first time in thousands of years, the story of Thera's eruption and the fate of the people who lived here begin to unfold.
That's a good sample right there.
They were probably the first great civilization in human history and the least known, because they flourished here, then disappeared. For thousands of years, they were the stuff of myth and legend, and may have remained a tantalizing mystery until archaeologists around 1900 began finding clues of a lost civilization. They left homes and art and science, and probably the first indoor plumbing on the planet, but no people. They seemed to vanish. Before Caesar, before Alexander, before Solomon, there were the Minoans. Intricate architecture and a bustling urban lifestyle reveal a surprisingly sophisticated people. For a kingdom built on seafaring trade, the island known as Thera in ancient times was a perfect maritime crossroads.
They had this natural harbor. That was what made Thera special. They could get in and out of just like we're doing right now. The weather's out there, and here we are inside, protected by these tall walls. This is why Thera was such a wonderful place to live.
They had no standing army nor defensive fortresses, yet ruled the eastern Mediterranean for 1,500 years.
This is the first real civilization. These were very sophisticated people. When you see the art, you see the women that were beautiful. The mascara, the earrings, very impressive. And to see that all destroyed in a flash.
The people vanished, and Thera lasted apart. 30,000 Minoans lived in the shadow of the Thera volcano, then disappeared from the face of the earth. The city of Akrotiri, the island's main port, was ground zero. Like its doomed sister city, Pompeii, Akrotiri is preserved in a time capsule of pumice and ash. And yet, the excavations at Akrotiri suggest the people knew there was a ticking time bomb beneath their feet. Because unlike Pompeii, Santorini is curiously empty of skeletal remains. It's a ghost town. It appears the people got out in time. But that's also what archaeologists thought when they excavated Herculaneum, also destroyed by Vesuvius in 79 AD. There were no bodies in that city either.
So that leads you to believe that they got away. Herculaneum, they didn't think they died there either till they got to the beach. Till they got down to where they'd run and couldn't get off the island.
But there are no bodies on Santorini's beaches, suggesting the accomplished sailors made it off the island, only to meet their fate elsewhere. Did Thera warn them? It's not uncommon for violent earthquakes to precede a volcanic eruption, and all over Akrotiri, evidence points to a period of extreme seismic activity. Even in their art, the Minoans used a highly advanced technique to reinforce their paintings, bonding layers of wet and dry plaster directly to walls, 3,000 years before Renaissance frescoes. A method archaeologists believe was a safeguard against earthquakes. And more evidence of seismic activity. These steps cracked before they were buried in ash, before the eruption. Vessels of paint and plaster clearly indicate the Minoans were already repairing earthquake damage, then left suddenly. After the earthquakes, as magma kept rising inside the volcano, the next phase was a menacing plume of ash. If the tremors didn't convince the Minoans their home was no longer safe, the ash storm may have. Then Thera blew its top. On the trail of clues Thera left behind, the ROV makes a significant discovery.
Okay, let me know when you got it, and where would you like it to go? Is there anything in there right now?
Debris from the earliest stages of the eruption. Two magmas fused together. As one pushed into the other, it set off a chain reaction, leading to an explosion of epic proportions.
You have a magma chamber that has existing magma in it, and you get fresh magma coming in from the base. It mixes with it, can lead to overpressuring in the chamber, and that can trigger an eruption.
To a scientist, it's a freeze frame of a doomsday eruption in the making. Inside the magma chamber, super high temperatures and toxic gases under incredible pressure. The new magma destabilizes it. That's when the mountain is ready to blow.
So you build up tremendous pressure inside the magma, and finally when it gets up into the atmosphere, the magma can no longer withstand those pressures, and it literally explodes, it fractures, it blows itself to pieces.
After the ash plume came the explosion itself. Scientists can now read the whole story of that eruption in the volcanic debris it left behind. The trail starts on land. For more than 20 years, Dr. Floyd McCoy has been making the ancient volcanic rocks speak.
Layers. The history of this eruption is in the layers. Let's start in this lower layer here. Man walked that surface. Man lived on that surface. This debris is everywhere. But right here, things changed. The eruption started. This layer right here was an initial dusting, a fine dusting of ash. This was followed very soon by the giant blast. Look at the thickness of this deposit. That's the clue on just how massive and big and explosive this eruption was. When I stand here and look at this, it's scary.
Each volcano leaves a unique geologic fingerprint in the remains of its eruption. McCoy identifies debris from Thera here on land, so Ballard and his underwater team know what they're looking for.
Those worms are really out.
Thera's gigantic debris cloud could have plunged 100,000 square miles into total darkness for days. An area that includes Istanbul, the pyramids of Egypt, all the way to the Persian Gulf. If so, Ballard should be able to find traces of Thera's debris far out to sea. But there are volcanic deposits from countless ancient eruptions all across the bottom of the Aegean.
Really steep cliff.
Okay. I wonder if it's because...
In the lab, the cores are opened and analyzed. This is the moment of truth.
Oh, beautiful.
Well, that's probably...
Halfway down, a patch of mud goes strangely dark.
Feels very gritty. Feels like an ash layer. Oh, very nice.
Really?
Beautiful.
The mix of volcanic glass and minerals must match McCoy's samples precisely.
You know, we've been wondering about this phreatomagmatic.
And it falls down to the seafloor. And it's been waiting for us there until we took the core and brought it up to the surface.
The match is perfect. For the first time, scientists have been able to measure Thera's deposits far out to sea. The key data they need to calculate the magnitude of the eruption. But 99% of the ash shot into the stratosphere, and it would have had global impact.
You're injecting this fine material, this volcanic ash, way up there in the stratosphere. That's a blanket that encircles the world.
In 1815, debris clouds from Tambora's eruption in Indonesia cast the entire planet into the year without summer. Snow fell in New England in June. And famine stalked Europe and Russia, causing 80,000 deaths. One clue to the magnitude of a volcanic blast is the amount of debris it produces. But debris above the waterline is just the tip of the iceberg.
That volume is how we calculate how explosive the eruption was. But how much of that is under the sea? That's what we need to find out.
The full story of Thera's impact can only be told from evidence at the bottom of the sea. The two ROVs quickly come upon an astonishing accumulation of debris. As if poured into the sea in one massive deluge, indicating it all came from the same enormous eruption.
Pyroclastic flow. And see, there's no layering in it. That wall is massive. Massive. Yeah.
So this was all
and it's
one
single
big
event.
Right.
And so
What do you think the thickness is?
Well, it looks like it's over 10 meters there. So the total thickness could be 50 meters or more.
Right, well, it certainly looks thick.
When Ballard's team calculates the magnitude of the explosion from the thickness of the deposits, the results are astounding. Thera was 4 times the size of Krakatau, placing it among the most powerful eruptions in the history of the planet.
That yellow is khaki color.
The expedition's data is forcing scientists to rethink Thera's explosivity rating and consider upgrading it from a 6 to a VEI of 7.
We can get him to spin the
It means the worst of Thera's fury may not have been confined to Santorini. Even if the Minoans made it off the island alive, they may not have gone far enough, fast enough, to escape its wrath. This is the final piece in the puzzle to determine if Thera could still have been lethal well beyond the confines of Santorini Island, even across open water. Many believe a volcano's lava flow is its most dangerous weapon. Yet lava rarely poses a deadly threat. Normally moving so slowly, anyone too close can merely walk away. But explosive megavolcanoes are a different story. They often generate a searing storm of pumice, gas, and ash, known as a pyroclastic flow. For clues to Santorini's pyrostorm, it helps to investigate the Tambora volcano that exploded in Indonesia in 1815, the largest eruption in modern times. In 2004, scientists excavating the ruins of a village that once contained 10,000 people make a grisly discovery. The remains of a woman charred by a superheated blast. Melted glass bottles recovered at the site suggest temperatures nearly 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
As a scientist, I know a lot about the process that took place when these people were killed. I know exactly what the temperatures were, what the forces were, and how much agony. And then I realized that these were only 2 of perhaps 10,000 people that were living in the town and killed there all instantly at the same time.
A pyroclastic storm is nature's unbridled fury, instantly incinerating everything in its path. It's an avalanche of superheated gas and debris, storming down the mountain at speeds up to 100 miles per hour and more. Vaporizing some, petrifying others for all eternity. A mix of science and computer-assisted imagination helps to visualize a pyroclastic storm from 1815. More recently, cameras captured pyrostorms in all their deadly fury. 1991, Mount Unzen, Japan. For months, the volcano had been belching steam and ash, but only minor pyroclastic flows. On the morning of June 3rd, a group of scientists and reporters boldly moved further up the mountain for a better view. That afternoon, a sudden, massive pyroclastic flow blasts down the mountain. The 43 victims never had a chance. They died almost instantly. Now, the Santorini expedition must determine if Thera's pyroclastic flow could have followed the Minoans beyond the island and across the Aegean. Here, even a tiny bit of evidence could help solve a mystery dating back thousands of years.
It's giving off a lot of dust. That's an indication of the pyroclastic flow. It's very loose and disintegrates.
No, you still got it. Yeah. Good. That's a good sample.
The ROV collects a 2-inch sample, just a pebble from the mountains of pyroclastic debris in the Aegean.
In places, it is 80 meters, 240 feet thick. It's really incredible. But look, we're finding it now over here, and up here, and up here, and all the way around here.
It's thicker than you thought, and it's covering a bigger area.
It is stupendous. Yeah, just a moment.
This is the smoking gun they've come to the Aegean to find. Santorini's pyroclastic storm may have been massive enough to threaten neighboring islands. A likely haven for Minoans escaping the Santorini eruption would have been their capital, centered on Crete, about 70 miles away. Could they have come here and still be counted among Thera's victims? Only if the dots can be connected back to the volcano on Santorini. Yet another volcano may provide an answer. It was during the 1995 eruption on Montserrat in the Caribbean that scientists first witnessed a pyrostorm's amazing ability to walk over water.
This is the one instance where a pyroclastic flow was captured going into the ocean. We learned that actually flows can travel over the surface of the flow. They go underwater. They can also skim across the surface for large distances.
Today on Santorini Island, the ancient pyroclastic flow is still here, fossilized, as if frozen in the midst of its rampage, which might have reached as far as Crete. But Thera's reign of terror wasn't over. Doomsday volcanoes can pile one deadly punch on top of another. Thera's pyroclastic storm may not have been the only possible threat to Minoans living miles away. Her next blow may have been a wall of water more than 100 feet high. From evidence on the floor of the Aegean, the Ballard expedition has recalculated the magnitude of the Thera blast, demonstrating it may have been powerful enough to reach Minoans as far as Crete. A pyroclastic flow is one suspect, but there may be another. These gigantic blocks of rock are a baffling first clue.
And for quite a while we were surveying them, and they were popping up on the computer screen, and we're trying to figure out what it might be.
Volcanologist Haraldur Sigurdsson is on the trail of where they came from and how they got here. If he can link these massive stones to the Thera blast, it would indicate even more mayhem from that horrific eruption, and suggest another possible doomsday event.
Is it okay if I go up on the roof? Because I would like to look at the rock behind the building. Is that all right? Oh, okay.
Sigurdsson visits a luxury resort on a vacation isle in search of rocks.
Okay.
No ordinary volcano could have blasted these giant rocks so far into the Aegean.
It turns out that they came from right here, from this mountain, that they were formed when a big debris avalanche slid down off the mountain and into the ocean.
Prior to the eruption, this mountain was twice the size. In the explosion, the entire side of the mountain collapses, triggering a landslide of boulders the size of World War II battleships, cascading into the sea. But Sigurdsson believes Thera's blast could have produced even more devastating results. When seawater breaks through to a magma chamber, it will explode like a giant pressure cooker, blasting the mountain apart, causing an avalanche of giant boulders, and sending the water rocketing back out to sea with enormous force. That's when a volcano becomes a doomsday machine. The result? A tsunami. You can't toss half a mountain into the sea and not expect to make waves. A tsunami is the last deadly suspect that could have chased the Minoans across the Aegean and destroyed the civilization here in Crete and beyond. We know the devastating tsunami of December 2004 traveled more than 3,000 miles across the Indian Ocean, from Indonesia all the way to Africa. Just 70 miles from Santorini, Crete would have provided no safe haven. To calculate how large the Santorini tsunami may have been, Krakatau offers a simple paradigm. It said that tidal wave, from an eruption with a VEI of 6, was 100 feet high. With Thera now possibly a 7 on the VEI scale, that would mean it was 10 times more powerful than Krakatau and hurled 4 times more debris into the sea. It could have spawned an astronomical wall of water, tall enough to wash over entire islands. Minoan ships at sea might have ridden out to tsunami. But anchored near the beach, they were sitting ducks.
This would not have been a good day to have your whole economic base up on the beach.
The data proves Thera was so massive, it may have terrorized the entire region, with both a pyroclastic storm and a tsunami. Even if the Minoans on Santorini escaped before the eruption, there was nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. The Thera eruption 3,600 years ago now ranks among the most powerful of all time, delivering a death blow to Europe's first great civilization. And yet, more frightening still, Thera is showing signs of stirring back to life. One legend about the Thera eruption has teased imaginations for centuries. Some believe it was the real-life cause of the biblical plagues in Egypt in the book of Exodus, with the tsunami parting the Red Sea. Considered mere speculation by most scholars, still, the coincidences are hard to ignore. Plague 7, the firestorm. Plague 9, day turns to night. Both could have resulted from the doomsday eruption and debris that spread across the Mediterranean. But speculation, it will likely remain at the crossroads of science and faith, the Bible and history.
Just trying to track to the other direction.
The Ballard expedition is solving mysteries about a doomsday blast thousands of years old.
That's great. That's a very steep wall.
Among the biggest eruptions in the history of the planet. The data tells an ancient story of destruction on an epic scale, and of the mysterious people who disappeared, blown away in a searing death cloud, or washed away in a massive tsunami. Either way, anybody's definition of doomsday. Today, Thera is mostly submerged beneath the waters of the Aegean. But if it may have wiped out an entire civilization 3,600 years ago, the scientists want to discover what the past can tell us about the future. Especially if Thera is only sleeping and could awaken again at any moment. The expedition moves to another potential danger zone just offshore above the volcano called Colombo. Colombo has killed before, spewing rocks and toxic gases into the atmosphere. And Ballard wants to know if it will kill again.
So, here we go, we're coming down on it. And are they tilted down with their camera?
Is the camera tilted down?
Colombo and Thera are related, heirs to the same line of magma that produced the Doomsday Blast.
Colombo, I mean,
Look big in the distance.
tell them we can just happily wander around here. See if they can hold station and see what happens.
The ROV Hercules uncovers a swath of gurgling undersea vents.
Follow this guy up, and it'll lead you into the vents.
You know, we're in Colombo now, so we're only a stone's throw basically outside the Santorini caldera, and here we have another big active volcano on the seafloor. It's clear.
Their surprise becomes amazement.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Oh my God. Those towers.
Hydrothermal chimneys, some 12 feet high, are covered in heat-craving bacteria.
Yeah, look at that.
Wow.
The
It's shimmering water.
Indications of the inferno below and surging to the surface.
These chimneys must be built up by sulfides and sulfates. Exactly. You know.
The ROV deploys a temperature probe and takes a reading.
200, 210.
It's going up.
Yeah. 220.
220.
The vents are discharging gases heated to over 400 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning they're directly above a massive magma chamber.
It's what this shows us is that we've got a very live volcano down here. Now let's
Proof that the danger is alive and well.
immediately the bacteria.
Once again, the volcano under Santorini is gathering strength. The people of this Mediterranean island have not heard the last from the inferno beneath the sea.
People will play a game with Mother Nature. Eventually, a generation is going to get hit.
People here believe that it's not going to erupt again. Well, there's this denial.
And the threat isn't just confined to this ring of fire in Greece. On planet Volcano, there are 450 hazard zones where 1 million or more people live within range of a potential eruption. A few of these hotspots could be the next doomsday blast. Vesuvius, the volcano in Italy that destroyed Pompeii. A smaller blast in 1631 launched horrific pyroclastic storms. 18,000 died. It blew again in 1944, and evidence suggests Vesuvius may be preparing to blow again. In the U.S., Mount Rainier looms above the cities of the Pacific Northwest. When Rainier erupts every 500 years or so, its snow-packed summit collapses, sending a raging flood of mud into the valleys below at torrential speeds. It's called a lahar. Some towns will have less than 30 minutes to evacuate. But predicting an actual explosion is far from an exact science. Spring 1980. They know Mount St. Helens is going to blow and clear a safe zone 15 miles in all directions. Isn't nearly enough. On May 18th, when the mountain erupts, it's massively bigger than they expected. The warnings saved thousands of lives, but 57 would die. And Mount St. Helens was only 1% or less the force of Thera's blast. The most extreme eruptions, with a VEI of 7 or 8, will be so devastating, not even a warning will help. These are the doomsday volcanoes. Yellowstone. Under this tourist-friendly land of geysers and bubbling hot springs lies a hidden menace to the entire planet. Though it looks tame on the outside, the same natural forces that attract visitors could one day cause destruction on an epic scale. Below the surface, there's a hot spot in the Earth's crust and a gigantic magma chamber, a staggering 30 miles wide and 5 miles deep that could be filling with molten rock. An eruption here 2.1 million years ago was one of the largest in Earth's history. The last supervolcano eruption here was 640,000 years ago. It's not a matter of if Yellowstone will blow again, only when and how big. The level of uncertainty in forecasting the next eruption is huge, plus or minus 100,000 years. When Yellowstone goes again, most of North America could go with it. Millions dead. Unimaginable destruction. Global climate change. Mass starvation. It could be decades before the planet recovers. Once again, a volcano threatening the very foundation of civilization.
The Earth is pretty much doing what it's always done. It's just that there's more people in the way.
Scientists investigating the mystery in Santorini have given us a glimpse of the awesome power buried deep inside the Earth. A force that can alter history and reshape the planet. It's a reminder that we live by the mercy of the Earth's fiery core, with the power to give life and take life away. Is it any wonder ancient people assumed these fire-breathing mountains were gods?